Hello, welcome to Critical Moves of Telesur. Today we're going to be talking about a new topic about the base on the new questions. Why is there an exclusion of the Muslims in the migration law of Narendra Modi? Are they religious law, historic reasons, political reasons? What are the consequences that an escalation of tension could lead to? This is what we're going to be asking about. Let's begin. Let's listen to some statements of the Indian government as well as citizens of the approval of the law. What does the opposition speak about? Those are all lies. All of these people are spreading rumors that all Muslims will be sent to detainee centers. This is not true. Everything they say is a lie and a lie and a lie. The police is being attacked, and the leader of a party of over 100 years are giving some advice, but nothing in favor of peace. This means that he does approve the attacks. This law will not attack anybody. None of our brothers and sisters that are Muslims that live here. This law project just gives them citizen. It doesn't take it away from anybody. We are giving them citizenships to some innocent people. Why do they create some differences? India has respected the Muslim and Hindus. What we have to do is create laws that are real, that are fair, and that's what we're doing. I would like to say to the opposition that people will approve it. When we fled our homes, we went scared. Some people gave them refuge, and they offered to send us to our relatives. But I have no relatives here, so they brought us to their home to give us refuge. They gave us water, and they calmed us down. When these people were attacked, they started to flee to this neighborhood. They were Hindus and Muslims, and we were saved from any harm. The people of our Hindu brothers were attacked. Ever since I was small, I had never heard of so much violence between Hindus and Muslims. Today we're living this. We are afraid. We have left our houses in the midnight, and now we can expect police. But at night, there are some people who just were singing, and we just went home and came back home in the morning. People throwing rocks, chants. There were some sacking of businesses. 3 hours later, the policemen came, and then the situation was under control. But let's locate this country that we are now speaking about. India is an area of the conflict. The Republic of India is located in the southeast of Asia. It's in the Indian Pacific Ocean, and it's the nucleus of the world, through where the navigating routes go through. It has borders with Pakistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Gulf of Bengal, Indian Ocean, Arabic Ocean, and Pakistan. It is near the islands of Sri Lanka and Indonesia. The capital city is New Delhi, and their biggest city is Bombay. With a surface of 3,287,268 square kilometers, it is one of the largest, most dense countries in the world, and it will be the second most densely populated country in the world after China. In the last years, it has had a rapid growth of urban population due to certain advances in hygiene and health conditions. Most of the people are young because it's favorable in a world that is normally getting older. In India, it has a secular parliamentarian democracy. It is religious, multi-language. In the 16th century, European countries like Portugal, Spain, Holland had important ports there and founded some colonies. Later on, there was a total control of the British. And then there was a big independence fight. There was an insurrection that went against the coup. After this, India became under the complete control of the British Crown. We had some difficulties with the audio. We'll try to solve this. Meanwhile, let's go to a question. Why has it been so hard to pass this law of citizenship in India? Let's review this. On December 12, 2019, there was a reform to the migration law that prohibited the undocumented migrants to become a legal citizen. The old law established that a person should have lived or should have worked for the federal government for at least 11 years before being able to request the citizenship. With the new modifications, the law allows people to receive citizenship from Pakistan and Afghanistan, or even though they are not with all the complete documents. Likewise, it establishes that they only have to live for 6 years so they can aspire to have citizenship. The process is called naturalization. The big problem of this modification is because it excludes the Muslims, because 14% of the people who live there are of Muslim religion. It also says that who possess the card of citizenship, they could even lose this right. The law will also have a register of citizenship, and they will have to show that they are citizens and they are not refugees of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. This can almost make that 9 million people have no citizenship at all and end up in detainee centers because they don't have enough ID. The Indian authorities have started implementing this ever since 2015, and only in the state of Assam, ordering the Supreme Court to identify illegal migrants. There are some critics who say that it excludes the secular principles that are in the Constitution, which prohibits any type of discrimination. So let's see how this is translated down on earth. Let's see some of the digital websites like Vanguard. It says it's almost 46 dead in the protest against the citizenship law in India. There has been some disturbances, and there's almost 46 people who have been killed. Thousands have been detained, and the clash between the Muslims, Hindus, and the authorities have provoked damages to houses, shops, mosques, and there have been cars that have been set on fire. The tension began some months ago with the announcement of this new migration law announced by Narendra Modi, who is the prime minister. And the violence just exploded a week ago due to the visit of President Donald Trump. The citizenship law will allow to give asylum to a great number of minorities, but not to the Muslims. The law, according to the law that's CAB in English, will allow people to have the citizenship from many countries, unless they are Muslims. Thousands of Muslims have had to flee from New Delhi due to the fear of being attacked. The streets had appeared to be ghost towns. And then another group that has been affected are those of photographers and journalists. Anindya Chattopadhyay, she's a journalist of the Indian Times, and she was offered to mark her forehead so she would not be attacked. The new government, Narendra Modi, has censored some content, according to the journalists. The new government of Modi has adopted a position that is very belligerent against journalists, according to Avinda Junareskar. Europe Press is also speaking about this. This was January 10th of 2020. It says the official law register says that the new law is enforced regardless of all of the protests.
De la polémica ley, a pesar de las multitudinarias protestas que ha suscitado la normativa al conceder la ciudadanía.
They have given citizenship of migrants that are non-Muslims of other countries that are refuge due to being persecuted in other countries. The document that has been spread by the government says that the provisions of the law it began to be enforced. This is February 10th of January this year. This law will give some benefits for people who have arrived from Bangladesh, Pakistan, or Afghanistan before 2015, if they have been persecuted in their countries for political reasons. This law has been called anti-Muslim because the law applies to anybody who is not Muslim. And they say that this law is to help Sikhs, Hindus, and Catholics. And these minority groups that for years that have had no legal rights in India will now have an automatic way to obtain their citizenship. Some people think that this second updating will be the first step of creating a national register of citizenship that already exists in Assam, just like we heard in a piece we had before. Ever since December, the authorities have announced that there will be a new census during 2020, regardless of all of the protests that have left 20 killed and the protests of people on the streets in New Delhi. The Muslims suppose 14% of the population and represent 1/3 of the biggest Muslim population in the world. This law comes after the fact that they have rejected a law that was about citizenship. To gain some clarity, I would like to suggest that is called Hindus First, Key Aspects About the Citizenship Law. It's been written by Thomas Siemens and published in Euronews. The author is Thomas Siemens. The questions are, is the Citizenship Amendment Act, is it legal? They think that this will be a very dangerous precedent that the CIA might set. There is a professor in Delhi, and she's a specialist in Indian democracy. She says that what is concerning is introducing some discrimination due to religion. And the law, this discrimination is made by the law itself. And maybe this law will not be enough to discriminate. The fear of getting into slopey feet might have a drastic change, and it could be very real. For Jaja H, a high-ranking jurist says that the democracy might be in peril because many people think that the majority of the parliament is making the
y la separación del Estado y la religión.
As if they were going to separate education from law, and that there will be an exclusion called Hindu first. This was defended by the party, is the Hindutva.
O nacionalismo hindú, o nacionalismo hindú para ser más preciso.
This is a political project based on religion and conceptualized in the beginning of the 20th century. This doctrine and its strong roots to the society of India was summarized by saying that India belonged to the Hindus, a people whose unity was formed throughout the years, and they share the same lands, secret lands. Therefore, any Indian could consider themselves Hindu if they don't look to the Mecca or to the Catholic Church ever again. So basically, maybe be accepted to change their religion. Then the Supreme Court, he's more direct here. He says the obsession of the party to make India the only country where Hindus of every part of the world can go, and for Israel as a model to follow. Hisham Wanous, our correspondent for the Middle East, has much more information. Hello, colleagues. Greetings. The past year, the Parliament sent a law that will allow New Delhi to give nationality to millions of migrants that came from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan before 2015, but only in the case that they are not Muslims. A law that Muslim Hindus, that are the major minority, almost 14% of the population, say this is a ethnic cleansing, and the consequence ever since 2018, many residents of the north of New Delhi are organizing protests against the amendment of nationality. And now those people who are in favor of Narendra Modi have called to use violence against the protesters. These protests have left 27 dead and thousands of injured. There are thousands of military police on the streets. This city has almost 18 million people. And what we see now is that there's a tense calm after hours of this attack. And their slogan is India for Hindus. Narendra Modi has called on the peace, and they say that what he's trying to do is not to discriminate the Muslims. But what they've done is that they're just going to go through with the citizenship program that they have. After eliminating their special status of autonomy, now there's a controversial law, and there's an order to make the Muslim Indians have accused ethnic cleansing, and they accuse Modi of heightening the hate against the legal migrants and making and asking for a roll call of everybody who's there. They see a threat with a national a register of all of the migrants that will obligate everybody who is there as a registered, as a citizen to register themselves. 74% cannot read or write, and that means that and many are migrants. A similar case has happened in August 2019 with Assam, the northeast of Asia, left out 1.9. And the majority that are Muslims can be detained. While increasing the protests, the government has decided not to go through with the register of citizenship, not at least 2020. And at the beginning of 2021, they were willing to dialogue with the manifestations. This is all we have now. Let's go back to you. Now let me tell you one of the things that can happen after all of the regardless of the critiques, the government of Modi defends the amendments to the citizen law that makes the citizenship of many countries for everybody except for Muslims. Participate with us. We'll be right back. If you are just connecting to our program, we're telling you that last December, the government of Mr. Modi, President of India, made a reform that might give the citizenship to some governments, to some other countries, unless they are Muslims. The legislation has been strongly criticized by everybody. Let me tell you why. Ever since December, India, there have been crossed opinions that will let you have citizenship for those who are part of minorities, among which Muslims are not counted in. The rejection of this community is because the majority of Muslims live in India. This represents 200 million people, according to the legislation. Analysts say that the Prime Minister regime is trying to marginalize the Muslim people, and this will weaken the main tradition of India. Ever since this law was launched, the official government has denied any racism, any discrimination, and what they're trying to do is trying to help those countries who have had no recognized rights. The Muslim country says that this is open discrimination after the government of Modi decided to remove the Kashmir, India. For more than 7 decades, India and Pakistan have disputed this territory. India started to control 45% of Kashmir, while Pakistan did the rest. Regardless of a peace process, the problems began after that there was a problem of Pakistan that went into Kashmir. And this responded with aerial attacks that did away with the lives of thousands of the other side. there have been many wars against these two, between India and Pakistan. They've tried to put away, to do aside with the wars, and they've reestablished relationships. However, when Narendra Modi came to the power in 2011, he promised to make the laws stronger. And these laws included modifying the names of Muslim history names. In 2008, Modi has done away all of his semi-status. Let's start with our first part of analysis. From Mexico, we have Ernesto Carmona. He's an expert in international relationships. And from Chile, we have Pablo Nofre. He's a writer and also a specialist in international affairs. Let's start with Pablo. How can we understand this wave of manifestation that have even left some dead and some injured? What seems to be a fight between Muslims and Hindus, what is it really? Well, this is not just a religious thing. It would be a very easy argument. And we have tried to be tolerant with the ethnic problems we've had. Let's recall that the independence of India and after the separation of Pakistan in 1971, the creation of Bangladesh from the differences between Pakistan, both the West and the right. You mentioned in your argument what happens in Kashmir. There are elements that can have religious treatments, but there are political elements. And there are feelings that are represented by Narendra Modi that have already brought a series of conflicts. Let's recall that this party, that for you, the government party, and what it tries to generate, and this measure is a discrimination law that is against minorities, especially when the minority is 180 million inhabitants. So this is a great percentage of within India, and they confront this idea with a new India, a digital, easy access. And in this place where we told you, we've seen there's a banalization of an ethnic discourse based on a supremacy. And to this we can add other people. I would like to stop here so we can include Professor Ernesto Carmona. Hello, Dr. Carmona. Greetings. Several analysts agree that there is a parameter. However, Narendra Modi say that there is a lot of similarities. Do you agree? And there has been some reflection to this in bigger or smaller scale. Nationalism has taken over the majority of this. This seems a lot that there is a strengthening of nationalism in all of the world. However, not all of nationalist movements are the same, although they all are exclusive. They all exclude some other people. We could speak of nationalism that are more to the left and others that are more to the right. And these that are more to the left, like you say, the one of Trump, or others in Europe or in other parts of the world. I think it's terrible what's happening in India, not only for the consequences, what they're trying to do is to go after minorities, but also the consequences to the stability, to their stability and their economy, because this recent conflict and the traditional conflicts have done this. And we should be very vigilant of this.
Bien, doctor, manténgase con nosotros. Pablo,
Doctor, stay with us.
¿qué caldo de cultivo se ha tomado el gobierno de Narendra Modi?
What has the government of Narendra Modi found? We've lost the visual contact. Let's see if we have him via telephone. If you hear us, what has the government of Narendra Modi found in the parliament to approve this citizenship that excludes the Muslims? Of course, this can have some motivation of Narendra Modi. That is not new. But this, nonetheless, it does have some support of the rest of the congressmen. In the May elections of last year, the party of Narendra Modi has obtained a swapping gain, and this is 303 congressmen over a number of 500 something, and they have a political support base, but additionally many citizens do support them. After a series of advances of the Narendra Modi party, so there's a growth that is very important. We are speaking of an ideology where the leading group has there is some conflicts. Modi comes from Modi keeps a very intransigent, is not tolerant to the Hindu with the Hindu religion. If you have a conflict that is ongoing, that has nuclear problems, a nuclear power, all of the problems, all of the policies,
de un presidente nacionalista, con este nacionalismo, diría yo, radical, haciendo esa salvedad que hacía el invitado de México, indudablemente
undoubtedly,
muy hondo y tiene efectos.
This will go very in deep in a society that is tend to having conflicts with Pakistan on a permanent basis, not only because of Kashmir, but ever since 1947. There has been for border confrontations where the ethnic and religious element is also a big element, but also it's the geopolitics and the hegemony that you would like to have in a very important zone as is Central Asia, with all of the conditioning that they have in India of a country that wants to step out in the world and that has created many agreements and trying to get to Europe. So undoubtedly we are in presence of a political party of the government that has the enough force
seguir con las políticas no solo de la ley de enmienda de ciudadanía, sino que a su vez seguir
con todas aquellas posturas que le den más fortaleza a la doctrina, la ideología internacionalismo que trata de reprimir a las minorías. Es importante dar cuenta de esta represión. see this repression, because there are also
deberían ser protegidas por esta ley de enmienda de ciudadanía. Y aquí se está viendo claramente que hay una discriminación.
And here we see that there is discrimination.
¿Qué pasa con los habitantes de Sri Lanka que siendo musulmanes sufren la
What happens with the people
de mayoría budista
of other governments like Sri Lanka and Myanmar?
Claramente una decisión discriminatoria.
So here there is a discrimination intent.
Objetivos geoestratégicos, geopolíticos, de afianzar aún más el nacionalismo hindú y poder.
And what they want to do is to make the nationalism of India even stronger.
Sobre esos objetivos vamos a profundizar.
Based on those objectives, we're going to go further on our next guest.
Hasta la próxima.
Up until next time, let's mark a pause and then we'll be right back.
A partir de la cual usted nos da su opinión sobre este tema que hoy ponemos en el tablero geopolítico. Pese a enconadas críticas y enfrentamientos,
regardless of all of the confrontations
el gobierno
and the deaths,
the
government of Narendra Modi defends the discrimination. Why? What is his plan? Give us your criteria. We'll be right back.
Geoestratégico, geopolítico, al regreso de la pausa. Acompáñanos. Ya lo hemos visto.
And we've seen it before, how the application of this amendment of citizenship law in India has proven to have to make a division between Muslim and non-Muslim migrants, because it tries to consecrate the division and the discrimination. According to some analysts, this reform is a bigger process, and this is the way to begin the ethnic cleansing. They say that when dividing the migrants between Muslims and non-Muslims, what they try to do is to consecrate the discrimination. This makes the wider the divide, because the citizenship of a person cannot be determined according to their belief. This also affects the working class and the more poor people. Prison and stigmatization that is done by the President of India against the Muslim people in India has been strongly criticized. Turkish government Erdogan has condemned the violence against the Muslim. The Pakistan people who support the Muslim also reject the actions of New Delhi, and this makes even worse the situation between two countries. According to historic reports, the division was never so fair. The British government left the administration of this government, and there were two governments, India and Pakistan. Ever since, the parts have had 3 wars and several conflicts. Conflicts that Mr. Onofre was speaking about. Now let's continue with our analysis. We are here with Ernesto Maestre. He's a college professor, and welcome for being with us. So what we see is that there's geopolitical interests, and this that apparently seems to be an inter-religious war. Well, it's important in these geostrategic and geoeconomic interests. It's important to see the big actors. Who are the big, who are the main actors, and who has a relevant action in these actors in this region. This dominant class in India this is something that has lots of several levels. It's important to recall that the Constitution of India is based on a socialist way of thinking. When Nehru, who was the prime minister, or the first prime minister in India, in the fight against the British imperialism, And then what they tried to do was to reinforce these ideas. And they come back in the Reagan era. It was when there was the ultra-conservative waves in the United States. This is when there were these strategies how to dominate the world in a more aggressive way. But what happens? After 5-6 years, China and Russia start to get along. And this relation has left the BRICS, the Shanghai Alliance. So to these structures has the colonialism and the capitalism on top of it, and there's a structure on behalf of the US and the UK government. This strategy of what they're saying is, how will we work on these archaic religious and old-fashioned law. So there's a lot of structural programs. So this is not just coincidence. You think that this answers a geopolitical interest? Yes, because the elites of India are interested in this happening. There's a city called the Detroit of India that produces lots of cars. But India started to to lean towards Africa and America, and to some degree United States can impose. However, the unity of the United States with China, according to what the law says and the Constitution says, it's important to see what are the interests of Modi that these also always exist in India. So Modi, far from divorcing himself from the U.S. policies, he's getting near. He's going towards that side. Well, as you've said, you can compare it with the United States. But it's also not only of the United States, it's also of all capitalist leaders. We've seen in some countries of Europe where the same thing happens. So why do you think this nationalist outburst has come about? This ultra-nationalism is based on the elections. They attack minorities. This is what happens in all of these conflicts. There's an attack on these groups. And then he took advantage of the Muslim thing, and then they tried to stabilize all of these countries and tried to control Iran.
Se aprovechan y crear sus estructuras violentas, terroristas para lo que está ocurriendo en Nigeria.
So this is what happens in Niger with the petroleum part. Things are not just a coincidence. And in the case of India that we saw, her position has made her a very privileged zone. Why? Because
material de comercio, ¿no? Incluidos los hidrocarburos.
This is a central focal point between Asia, where ASEAN is getting together, all of this Chinese, all of the Chinese plan is stopped due to this chaos. It's a controlled chaos, but it's still chaos. I would say that this chaos is controlled by the U.S. government. Well, the U.S. has not left trying to control India. And they've tried to kick them out of several.
De orientación socialista de los Gandhi, ¿no? Porque por algo ellos los matan tanto a que eran primeros ministros, a Indira en el 83 y a Rajiv Gandhi en el 83.
And this is why there have been assassination of so many presidential candidates.
Los liderazgos. Porque esa es una corriente que está.
Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to do away with this tendency.
Está la cuestión del supremacismo, el cambio de régimen, pero en aquellos adversarios fuertes.
However, with strong adversaries, it is think that they're going to have a longer stay there. Let's recall that some years ago, India rejected all of the maneuvers with the United States. This has been brewing for some time because the great alliance that the Hindus has had with Russia. In this case, in these last years. Before it was with the Soviet Union. Nehru was a great friend. Another socialist tension that is very strong. How is this ultranationalism understood? Apart from having all these castes and these structures that are so traditional, it's important to see that Pakistan, these are the eternal enemies from 1947. And they're all a nuclear force that is decisive. So if they were in good relations, that is what Russia has always tried. They've always tried to clear up any discrepancies and try to take them to dialogue and sit them down. Let's not forget. And just some time before, with the well, there is all this problem that is being used on behalf of the imperialistic powers. Why can't Kashmir be resolved? Well, Kashmir has a very difficult situation because it's a great income for India. That would be a very great loss. And it has an origin. Well, Kashmir is also important because of the zone that are also in the middle. Pakistan has to do a lot. But the law tries to protect itself from the minorities. Because India, while having that economic boost, it has generated many capitalists that start to leave and went to invest in other border countries, and now are also being victims of these policies. Because this is part of the generation of contradiction, so they'll go to the biggest point, so they'll weaken the governments in general. Because there's a contradiction between capitalists that is very strong. There has not been a world war because it would be a disaster. with the nuclear wars, with the nuclear
todo el
weapons.
nuclear que hay, es decir, hay una multipolaridad en esto nuclear que tiene que ver mucho con
There
todo lo
has
que
to
está
be
pasando,
multipolar world.
que no se puede acudir a esas guerras de armas. Entonces, yo he visto en las manifestaciones carteles,
I've seen in all of the protests many posters, full color. Do you think that the poor people can do those posters? I don't think so. So you think that these protests might be induced by a foreign actor? I am totally convinced, because the big news media of the capitalism, the big networks, are incentivizing even more of what's happening. And we see how they use strategies that are trying to, that are pushing all of the young people. We've seen these documentaries where young people in India are dancing rap. And these are ways to calling on other people to take to the streets. And these can generate lots of problems, but it's always a controlled chaos. So this won't go all the way to the left. So I think that we should bear in mind this topic that goes beyond the legal spectrum. But there are contradictions that come from all of these situations of the working class and the great power that India has, that has not been distributed like Nehru and Gandhi thought. So Sandy's dream is at risk with all of this.
Profesor Wong, como siempre, muchísimas gracias por acercarse a nuestro
Thank you very much. I would like to thank my guest for sharing with us everything you know. Let's go to our conclusions. The tension that is caused by this reform to the legal migration law has just caused a big conflict. Basically with Pakistan, who already had problems about Kashmir. This could go to a conflict with no precedents. There is a conflict that is merely religious, or is there something strategic behind all of this? Only time will tell. Is Modi willing to sacrifice so much defending this law? Well, only time can tell. For today, this is all. Thank you very much.